Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to my 69th VBA tutorial. I'm going to come on into the next few tutorials on how to use active data objects and SQL to connect to your databases. But first of all, I just need to go through a couple of things. So I'm just going to do two tutorials. I'm going to do one on error handling and one on global variables, just because we're going to need them both for when we do our active data objects. Not essential, but really helps to support them. So I'm going to go through them quickly first. So the first one we're going to do is error handling. And it's a little bit different to other codes. If you're used to Java using try and catch, we're not going to be able to use that in VBA. So let's just create a new module. And put sub, and then let's just call it anything. There we go. And we're going to need to create a code with an error in it. So I'm just going to reference an incorrect sheet. So let's put this workbook dot sheets, and then sheet 1, except we don't want to call it sheet 1. Let's accidentally say we've typed an extra 1 in there and called it sheet 11, and then dot cells 1,1 dot value equals error. Right, so when we play this, it's going to say subscript out of range, which is the error message that you get in your debug screen whenever you reference an object invalidly. So if you try and reference a sheet or a workbook with the wrong name, it's always going to say subscript out of range. When you press debug, it's going to go on to, and show you which line that's gone wrong. I'm pretty sure I've shown you this in previous tutorials, so it just highlights it in yellow, and then you can use F8 to run that line, or F5 to try and carry on running, but it's still going to go wrong. So what we need to do is change that back to sheet 1, and then F5 to run, and it will run now because it says sheet 1. And if we go into our sheet 1, we'll see that it's got the error written in there. But let's say we want our code to automatically realize that that's gone wrong. So let's put it back to sheet 1. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to write some code at the bottom of our sub that will pick up the error. So we need to give it a name first of all, this bit of code. So I'm going to write error and then put a colon and press enter. Notice how it pushes itself over to the side. So this is essentially a bookmark. We're going to send our code to this bookmark whenever there's an error. What we also want to do, because this is just a bookmark, if our normal code gets to this point, it's going to carry on and run this code as well. So above your bookmark, just put exit sub. And what this does is, if our code runs this line and then keeps going, when it gets to here, it's going to exit our sub and it's not going to run the error. So in here, we can just put whatever we want to run when there's an error. So in message box, you have named your sheet incorrectly. And you can put as many lines of code under there as you want. And then up here, we're just going to put on error, go to, and then put the name of your bookmark. And it doesn't matter, it's not case sensitive, it will change it for you. And you just need to do that before your code here. So let's press play. And it's going to error, and it's going to go to our message box down here. And if we fix it, then press play, and then it's going to run fine. And it's going to put error in the cell. So that is the basics. There's a couple of other things you can do. So let's say we've got another line of code after this. So we paste, and they're both going to error. So let's say 12 and 11. But we want this one, we don't want it to follow the same rule as this. So we want it to just error normally of its own accord. So let's put on error, go to, and then 0. What this does is it just resets our error handler, and if an error occurs, it's actually going to throw the error rather than following our bookmark. The only problem is because the first one's running, it's going to jump down here and not run the rest of it. So let's put that one so it works, and then you'll notice that it goes to subscript out of range. So it runs this one fine, and then it turns off our error handler, and then it will just do the error as normal. The other one we can use, and this is probably more useful with for loops, so I'm going to just create a new sub down here. So sub loopy error, and then let's do for x equals 1 to 10, next x, and then let's do this workbook dot sheets, and then let's put sheet ampersand x dot cells 1,1 dot value equals VP error. And what this is going to do is it's going to run x up to the value of 4, and then it's going to error with the subscript because it hasn't got sheet number 4 anymore. So what we can do to avoid this is we can just put in a on error resume next. And then what this is going to do is whenever our code throws an error, it's just going to keep on running the next line. So it's just going to skip it. So we press play and it runs it all fine, because every time this code goes wrong, it's going to go, oh well, doesn't matter, I'm going to go on to my next line of code. So use this one with caution. I would never, ever, ever advise what a lot of people do and just sticking it at the top of your code. So if your code goes wrong, it carries on running, because you need to catch when something's going wrong, because otherwise it can mess up the rest of your code later on. And believe me, it will cause more good than it does. So if you're going to do this, always use it on a specific thing like this. So we don't want it to error when it's calling sheet names wrong, because we know some of them might not exist. So at the end of that, just put on error, go to 0. Just keep it tidy. Don't leave error handlers in places where you don't have any control over the errors that are happening. We know what error is going to happen here. We don't want it running on the rest of our code, because anything could happen. And that is error handlers. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below, or drop them onto our forum. Or also, if you want to download the codes that I'm doing, I'm saving it all. And if you go onto our website in the description, you can download all the code samples for free. So check it out. Thanks for listening. Hope to catch you in the next tutorial where I'll show you global variables.